Ericksen, I'll start off by saying, as a toddler, Ericksen had all of the qualities that I knew I was going to admire in him as a man, but it made raising Ericksen a little bit difficult. He is extremely independent. He has to live his life. You can't impart wisdom on Ericksen. He has to learn that for himself. He's an amazing kid. He's has a huge heart. Yeah, the day of the accident, I was at work. Melissa and I were both at work, and I got a call from his dad, and he said, Ericksen's been in an accident. And the first thing that came to my mind was, another car? Because he'd had fender benders, and I was like...
Nothing big.
Yeah, nothing big. And so the first thing I thought was, the car. He said, no, it's a skateboard. And I said, okay. And he's been taken to cone. So I said, okay.
I was the trauma nurse that day, and Ericksen, or the paramedics came in with a young man who had been on a skateboard, and they said his name was Ericksen, and I automatically said his last name. When Melissa and Heather got there, they were taken to one of the family rooms.
She sat knee to knee with me, and she said, Heather, it's bad. He's come in with a traumatic brain injury, and he is heavily sedated, and he's in CT.
And Dr. Wyatt, I remember him saying something about grabbing a consent form. I gotta talk to Mom, we gotta go upstairs now.
The main thing was the pressures in his head, the amount of negative pressure, and negative in terms of the effect on him physiologically, that usually you don't survive. There's not enough positive pressure allowing blood to go to the brain to keep it alive.
Without being overly dramatic, Ericksen was at death's door. He had a very massive brain injury, had severe swelling of his brain, had severe bleeding around his brain. I did emergency kind of decompressive surgery where basically I removed the whole left side of his skull to remove the blood clot and allow the brain some space to swell.
There were some very creative, non-standard interventions undertaken by ourselves and by the neurosurgeon, Dr. Poole, that actually I think were very key to him surviving.
We were able to start surgery within a few minutes of him getting up there.
So in 45 minutes, he went from the scene of the accident into neurosurgery, which I can't even fathom that, how fast. When he first got out of surgery and I walked into his room, I took one look at him and it was a different kid. The swelling, immediate swelling was profound.
It was pretty soon after we thought we have to bring a picture because these nurses don't know who they're working with.
Who they're taking care of.
They don't know. That doesn't look anything like him. And so we went and had some 8x10 pictures made and put on the wall because we're like, they're not going to know who he is.
I think we did that within hours because it meant a lot to me for them to know who they were taking care of.
He had problems due to the bleeding into and around his brain where his body's ability to control his own clotting basically failed. And usually in that type of situation, we're not able to bring something back. And so, again, in Ericksen's situation, not only did he have one problem that usually is unrecoverable, he had a second one almost immediately with his coagulation abnormality that really, I didn't think we'd be able to get him through it.
I looked at him and I just wanted to hold him. Just hold him. And I knew that it was going to be too much stimulation, and so I struggled with that. but I just wanted to hold him. And so I got in the bed with him, and we had a heart to heart. I said, if you want to be let go, if you want to go peacefully, then we can do that. I would understand that. It would break my heart, but I can do that. I said, but if you want to fight, we're in this together. And I will fight hard for you, and I know that you're a fighter, and we can do this.
And so we, all as a group and a family and everybody who loves Ericksen sat there and we all said, all right, we're going to fight. This is it. We're going to do it.
I think it was the next day Ericksen started tracking. Huge.
Nurses were yelling at him, but he was tracking. Look at me, you know. But he was tracking. Mm-hmm.
Ericksen's family was wonderful. They were amazing with the staff. They listened to the things that we told them and never gave up. They were there by his side the entire time.
I didn't realize they were nurses at Women's, so they have a more clinical background than I had imagined. So they handled it quite well, considering that it was their loved one and their son laying in the bed.
I always say, if you have that family support, it's going to determine just how well a patient does, and you can tell that had a big impact on it.
He had 3 prayer circles. The Church of God in Reedsville, they did a fast for him. The Buddhist temple, the monks at the Buddhist temple prayed over some prayer beads, and he wore those prayer beads. And Bobby's family, his dad's family from Florida came up, from Georgia came up, where his grandparents from Alabama came up. A lot of praying. A lot of praying.
The turning point was actually when starting to get annoyed with some of the stuff that we had hooked up to him, when he actually started reaching for his ET tube, trying to pull different things out.
From the first time he was able to sit on the side of the bed or move his leg, or I would hold his hand just so he'll stay calm, and he would squeeze my hand and I'm like, what's up, buddy? You're hanging in there. And he'll just look over, or he'll grin. And
everybody took good care of him. From respiratory, the traumatic brain injury team with physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, social work, nursing staff, directors of the units, ED nurses 10 days after he's been in the ED.
So we're strong believers in crystals and crystal healing and the power of rocks and that kind of thing.
Well, prayer too. Everything together.
That poor kid had rocks in his hands. He had rocks surrounding him in the bed. He had a
big crystal under the bed.
Big crystal underneath his bed, all to help with healing. Michael Jeffries comes in after one of his x-rays and
in a panic.
He said, I'm not really sure what's going on, but we think he's got a mass somewhere. My brother looks up and he deadpans. He's got a very dry sense of humor. He goes, well, maybe it's a rock. And sure enough, in the bed with him was a rock, and it showed up on x-ray. And they thought he had a mass.
Yeah.
We're labor and delivery nurses, and all that respiratory stuff. But we could not wait for the trach.
We wanted the trach
just kept
so
waiting
much.
for the. We had, please trach him, just trach him, because he was intubated. They trached him on a Thursday.
They trached him on the Thursday, and the next day was trach collar Friday.
Took him on the vent and never went back on.
Never went back home.
As soon as he was
trach, he was get out of the bed.
Yeah, and they got him up in a chair.
He wasn't happy.
No, he wasn't happy. No. Got him up in a chair, and they had him brush his teeth. And Paul, his lead nurse, he said, I stood outside the door. He said, I just wept. He goes, I couldn't believe that he was sitting up brushing his teeth.
You go home and you try to leave work at work, but it's those situations that you can't.
I get emotional thinking about it because it's, I don't know, when you think about the progress and you're there every day to see it, it's amazing.
The decision had to be made about where he was going to do inpatient rehab, and I, as Melissa said, I toured the Cone rehab, very impressed, and I asked them, I said, you know, what's your youngest patient here? And I think he was 40.
Yeah.
And when I talked to the Shepherd Center people, there were
16, 18.
You know,
Yeah, most of those
16 to
kids were
20 year
young.
olds. And of course, the next big obstacle was how are we going to get him there? Because Cone had their own inpatient rehab, our insurance was not going to cover the transportation. I had gotten back from that tour and Colleen met me and she said, well, what have you decided? And I said, as impressed as I am with Cone's rehab, I think I'm being led to take him to Shepherd Center. And she said, well, I have some news for you. And she and Jesse were together and she said, Cone's going to pay for it. And I mean, I get choked up just thinking about it because it was huge,
Yeah.
to be able to take him down there.
I remember we were all crowded up around his room. Carolyn had come in to get him. All of his family were here to say goodbye. All the nurses were here, and it was just one big, almost like family reunion of sorts.
Oh man, getting to see him leave, that was phenomenal.
We all took pictures and we hugged each other, and it was just emotional. I tried to hold back tears.
Ericksen got to ride in the new big rolling intensive care down to Atlanta. And I was up in the front with Joe. And we got down there in 5 hours. He's really proud of that.
They decided very early on that they were going to keep everyone updated via this website, Caring Bridge, and it's more or less a blog site, and it updates, and you can provide photos and request donations and things of that nature through the Caring Bridge site, and so that's how we kept up with him.
He's amazing. He really is amazing. He can stay by himself. He's not. He can stay by himself. He's driving again.
Stay off the road, people. Stay off the road.
Since then, they brought him up here to visit.
I didn't realize how tall he was, that's number one. Just to seeing that kind of result rejuvenates you to come back and do it again.
I'm really, really proud of him and all the hard work he's done.
And it's so heartwarming and awesome to know that miracles still happen.
You brought my son back.
We are the most blessed and lucky people in the world. I mean, I just don't know how to say thank you for that.